last time you flushed out your water heater? If you can't remember, or you've never done it, or if it's been longer than a year, it's time to get it done. Let me show you how. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Melissa, a homeowner of over 18 years. I share home maintenance, repair, and renovation on this channel, so follow along if you want to learn how to do it yourself and save money. I've spoken to several plumbers on this issue, and the consensus is the same. They recommend you do it at least once per year. And it's a fairly easy process. What we're gonna do is drain all of the water out of the tank so that we can flush out the sediment that settles on the bottom.
Please note, this how-to video is for an electric water heater only. First, turn off the circuit breaker to the water heater and give it an hour or two for the water inside to cool down. Next, find the cold water supply line and then turn that valve to the off position. Now you'll want to grab a garden hose, and we're going to connect it to the drain valve located at the bottom of the water heater tank. If you have floor drain in the area, you'll want to run the other end of the garden hose over to the drain. If you don't, see if you can run the garden hose outside, and if you can't do that, you'll have to run the other end of the garden hose into a bucket. Once you have the other end of the garden hose in place, slowly open up the drain valve to allow the water to start flowing out through the hose. This part isn't necessary, but I like to drain mine over an old window screen that I have, just because if there is any sediment stuck in there, I like to see what comes out. Now you can open up a hot water faucet in your house if you want to help speed up the draining process. Now just give it some time for the tank to completely empty. You can walk away and come back later if you want while this happens, unless you're using a bucket. If you're draining this into a bucket, you're gonna have to stay here as you're going to need to empty that bucket quite often. While that's draining a bit, let's talk about why most manufacturers recommend you do this on an annual basis. Over time, minerals and sediment naturally settle at the bottom of your water heater. This leads to rust and corrosion that could damage the tank. Draining and flushing your water heater annually helps remove these harmful deposits, preventing potential leaks and extending the life of your unit. By keeping your tank clean, you maintain its efficiency and protect your investment. Once your water heater is finished draining and the water slows to a trickle or a stop, we're not finished yet. There's one more step we have to do. Go back to the water supply valve and turn it on. Let it run for a couple seconds, turn it off. Turn it back on, let it run for a couple of seconds, turn it off. And you want to do this several times. By briefly allowing new water to enter an empty tank and then shutting it off, it's helping to stir up any sediment that sits on the bottom. So this is allowing us to actually flush out any of that remaining sediment that's at the bottom of the tank. And as you do that, you'll see how the water will flow for a little bit, then it'll slow. Then it will flow for a little bit, then it will slow. Now, unfortunately, I had to learn why this is important the hard way. I had a water heater that had never been drained, and it rusted out from the bottom and dumped 40 gallons of water all over my basement. It was a finished basement, so we had to replace carpet, we had to rip out drywall. It was a mess. It was actually the plumber that came and replaced our water heater that told me how important it was to flush this out every year to avoid that in the future, especially if you live in areas with hard water. Now, once you're done turning it on and off real quick and you've got it all pretty flushed out, no more sediments coming out of it, you're done. You can go ahead and close the drain valve and then remove the garden hose. Then you'll turn the cold supply valve back to the on position. And this next step is very important. You want to let the water heater completely fill up before you turn the breaker back on. So give it a little bit of time, and then once you're confident the water heater is full, go ahead and turn the breaker back on, and then open up a hot water line in your house to help get out any air pockets that might be in there.
And that's all there is to it. Now our water heater is good for another year. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and of course, subscribe for more DIY Made Easy.